All right, we're back. Manic and Chill. Shane's sitting there talking about himself. Humming something to himself. What are you singing, Shane?
I was singing the theme song. I was just making up the words that go to it.
The theme song that has no words, right? That just counts down and has a little bit of a hum to it. I like our theme song. I like to just play it sometimes when I'm by myself and just play it over and over and over. It's kind of soothing.
I play it in the shower, and nice. I wrote words for it, so I'll have to get those out sooner or later. I'll have to release those.
It's already a minute. We're like completely haven't even introed the show. So Manic and Chill is back. We decided to do another episode. We are now, 3 weeks from right now, we will be done with the NFL draft, which means I have some drafts starting literally Saturday night, Sunday morning after the NFL draft. And I'm sure you probably have some that are starting like that weekend. So I'm ready to actually like be on the clock or like click draft in a couple leagues.
Scott, I know you might not know this. We actually have a rookie draft that starts Monday.
Oh, which rookie draft is that?
That would be back in the USSR, my friend.
Oh, well, I only have one pick, and so that's good to know. I didn't even check.
Pretty good pick.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to milk that 101 and just take as long as I can because I'm pretty much checked out. I didn't know it was the 101 right before the NFL draft. Good to know. I'm gonna have to rely on the MFL text messages to actually let me know I'm on the clock. Oh, good to know. Anyway,
well, I guess when you have one pick and it's the 101, not a lot of strategy involved on a rebuilding roster. You took over an orphan. I believe it was you had a dispersal draft. So this is not a team ready to, win this year. So is there any thought to trading out of the 101 and getting multiple assets, or are you okay with getting the next Patrick Mahomes?
Well, so here's the issue. It was a 3-team dispersal. There were 3 elite quarterbacks in the dispersal. They were Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson. Yours truly had the 101, and I took Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I mean, this was before any of the other stuff came out. This was back in February, so, it is what it is. We've talked about him a little bit. So, anyway, the team ended up having just Deshaun Watson because I basically punted quarterback after that and figured I'll make it up in the future. I picked a couple 2022 first, a couple 2023 first. So, I've kind of already set myself up, I think, to tank. But then having Watson as your only quarterback, we talked about it on the prior show. Like, I paid up. I traded 104 and J.K. Dobbins to get the 101. So, like, I pretty much paid, I'd say, pretty close to market value, like 2 top 6 pick values probably to get the 101. Thinking, okay, I have Watson and Lawrence. I'll figure the rest out. And then, of course, boom, Watson is looking real shaky for 2021. So, I'm pretty much going to pick the 101. Maybe I'll shop it. I don't know. I mean, you were in the league before. What do you think is there any play in ball at the 101? I know you just traded recently into the 102 and got, kind of crushed in the chat for giving up what you did, but I get it. Why you did it. I mean, what's the trade pulse in that league in terms of, do you think I'll get anybody playing ball for that 101 or it's probably better off just making the pick?
Yeah, you got a couple real sharps in there yourself. Katie Flower, Ron McLeese is in there. So you got a couple people, but it's a good league to trade it. Everybody likes to trade. I can't trade with Katie because she has some kind of weird hold over me where I'm scared to trade with her. But yeah, look, you could always trade with me. I don't have any future firsts to give you now because I did give up Jonathan Taylor and a 2022 first for the 102 because I'm that convicted, your word, on Justin Fields. I don't think I offered you that trade. I probably should have just to see what would have happened, but I didn't think you would be moving out for that.
Well, I think it looks like, just to discuss your trade, you gave up exactly Jonathan Taylor and a 2022 first, which, I think given where your team is, you're probably hoping that's a back, 3 or 4 pick next year, which I'm actually fine. Maybe we'll do some draft pick theory stuff going forward too, because I'm actually, anybody that's listening to Dynasty and Chill, I'm all about dumping some of the 2022 first, because I know a decent amount of Devy stuff. I play in probably 15 Devy leagues, so I'm pretty well versed on it. But there's some people that's all they do is they're basically following these classes top to bottom. And if I ask them, I asked somebody that I really trust their opinion the other day, and I go, well, give me one highlight of the 2022 rookie class. And, I think the first answer was for Superflex, Spencer Rattler could probably be one of the next elite quarterbacks in the league in terms of just offering the total package, almost like another Justin Fields, right? So a quarterback we could get behind that potentially could be top draft pick in the NFL, immediate producer in the fantasy space, but also has the upside of some of the guys that we're drafting this year. But after that, when the first things out of your mouth are, well, it's looking like a pretty strong receiver class. Ugh.
Oh, another one of those.
That first thing I think of is, those aren't that hard to get. We've talked about this many times. So, if you're telling me that's like the top 6 of the top 10 players are receivers, I'm okay kind of taking my chances that I'm not going to be in the premier position, because it's really, there's going to be a couple running backs, there's going to be a couple quarterbacks, but after that, I'm just not too thrilled to pick receivers in rookie drafts unless I literally think they have a profile to be, a CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. And there's only a couple of those in every draft. There might be 1, might be 2, but there's no 6 or 7. So if you're telling me, this draft is 10 deep at receiver, well, okay, it's probably really like 2 or 3 deep, and I'd rather trade the 201 for a first the next year, and I'll give you an extra third or something if I have to. I'd rather take the shot that I'm in premier position next year to get a running back or maybe a quarterback.
So that just brings to mind, people were talking about this class, about it being deep because of wide receivers, except that it's deep at 1 deep at every position except for quarterback. Quarterback goes 2 deep. Running back, 1.5, 2, depending on how you feel about Etienne and Williams. But a lot of times people say, it's a strong class because it's deep. Deep doesn't make it a strong class. I don't care if there's 15 guys that are all the same guy. Half joking around, I sent out a tweet earlier with my rankings. My rankings were legit. And then I did a tiered ranking later. And I had 5 tiers in the first round, and 6 actually, because after 5, it was literally everybody's the same guy. They are all the same dude. Which does bring up another interesting point, I guess. If you're drafting in a super flex league, that's all we really play in. So if you play in 1 quarterback leagues, I don't know, playing more super flex leagues are more fun. If the running back 3's on the board and the quarterback 4's on the board, who are you more likely to take?
Yeah, right now, I've been last year was interesting because I was the opposite. I was take running backs over quarterbacks, which, that didn't work out terribly. I probably wish I would have taken more Justin Herbert or more Tua or more Joe Burrow, but you didn't really miss on the running backs if you took them over the quarterbacks last year. This year, I'm probably going to lean towards taking all of the quarterbacks off the board, possibly before even the RB2, even Mac Jones. Not necessarily because I like Mac Jones, but I think we've seen, I was on the Dynasty Junkies podcast the other night, shout out to them, but we talked about this. When you get in these startup drafts, like we talked about on our last episode, you get in these startup drafts and there's just this quarterback frenzy that doesn't stop. It stops for maybe a little bit after the top 9 or 10 guys. Then it extends again into another, 8 to 10. But you're getting down to the range where you're having to debate, do I want to actually draft Drew Lock in a startup? Even if it's round 8 or 9, do I even want to draft him knowing that there's probably a 10% chance that he survives past this year? And that's a really low bet. At least if I'm drafting a wide receiver 3, I probably know he's going to be at least somewhat valuable to my team, right? But we've just seen this. The bottom, I don't know, what would you say? We did our Superflex tiers the other day. Like the bottom 30% of the league at quarterback is literally at risk from being benched or losing their job before this upcoming season is over. And so I'm looking at it more from like a game theory perspective of, a lot of my teams are fairly strong at quarterback. I know you've made a definite commitment this year to, like, if I have bad quarterback rooms, I'll go out and overpay. I don't care if I'm giving up elite running backs, like I'm going out there and getting my quarterback room stable. So I don't have to literally worry about it every offseason. Like, especially you and I, 50 teams. Do you really want to be scrambling every offseason going, man, I have 30 teams that have no quarterbacks? I mean, just the sheer amount of negotiation and work you have to do just to fix it, it just seems like a losing proposition. So I think I look at it and say, most of my leagues, I think I counted. Well, maybe we'll do an episode about this later on, but I think of my tier 1 and tier 2 quarterbacks, I have at least 2 of them in like 40 of my 54 leagues. So I guess the question becomes, like, if you have 2 stable quarterbacks and you're sitting at the 107, there might be 2 or 3 teams behind you that are going to be your competition to maybe even the playoffs, right? Do you want to let the 2 teams that are behind you in the draft, do you want them to get Mac Jones? Especially if they're sitting on Jimmy Garoppolo and Teddy Bridgewater and Ben Roethlisberger. Let's say that's their quarterback room, right? And maybe it got them there last year. Do you want to let them basically click that free button on Mac Jones, even if you don't really like Mac Jones?
Nope.
Wouldn't you rather hoard Mac Jones and just pass up maybe the Javonte Williams or the wide receiver 2, 3, 4, and just say, you know what? I don't need Mac Jones. He's my quarterback 4 or 5, but I really don't want to let somebody that needs him basically get him for free. You know what I mean? So I think I've answered your question. I'm taking the 5 quarterbacks really before really the RB2 or the RB3 in a lot of leagues, especially where I know the quarterback market's pretty slim.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at the board, who's going to be available, obviously. I don't have enough confidence that Javonte Williams is going to be even a starter in the league, let alone a high-end starter. I've seen the comps to, Kareem Hunt. Fine. I don't have any more confidence in Javonte Williams than I do Mac Jones. I have more confidence that Mac Jones is going to at least get a chance because he's going to get drafted in the top 6 picks. So he's going to get at least 3 years of sucking before they pull that plug. Where running back, you get 2 bad years. 1 year, they're already looking to replace you if you're bad. 2 bad years, you're done. You're toast. You're already dead. Mac Jones could go out there, suck for his first 2 seasons, and then be okay for his 3rd, and the narrative will build around him that he's improving. So I'm with you. I'm not going to take all the quarterbacks over all the position players. Obviously, I have it tiered like a lot of people, at least it looks like. But I have those. It's Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Najee Harris, and then quarterbacks and everyone else. That's basically how you have to draft this year. It makes no sense to draft Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith in the first round of your draft when you can just go get Elijah Moore in the second round. You could probably get Rondell Moore in the beginning of the second round. And if you can't, you know what? You'll get another guy that's kind of just like him, or it has the same profile hit rate. It doesn't pay to draft, like you said. It doesn't pay to draft wide receivers and running backs from this class after the first 1 at wide receiver and at most 2 at running back.
Well, and you mentioned Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase, and I was anti Kyle Pitts as high as he's probably going to go in a lot of formats early on. Kyle was big when we wrote, especially when we released the draft guide. I'm very big on just actually looking at positional value, and you run the numbers, and it doesn't make sense to necessarily take a tight end over a running back, especially, but even a quarterback in a league where even if it's like 1.5 premium, the numbers don't say, hey, that's a favorable spot to take a player that high over one of the others, right? But where Kyle Pitts is valued right now among tight ends and where Jamar Chase is valued among receivers, you can almost argue that if you get those guys at, let's just say, the 104 and the 106 in a Superflex tight end premium 1.5, only 1 tight end. So pretty common. Tight end premium, there's a premium, but it's not super scarce. It's not like, some of our leagues, 2 tight ends, 1.75. Like you could argue in those leagues, Kyle Pitts should go 101 or 102. Like 101's pushing it, but if you took him 101, I wouldn't say you're a complete moron. I wouldn't do it necessarily, but it does make some sense. Like you're in those 2 tight end leagues, like you can't even get people to trade them. It isn't even about how much can I offer. It's like, here, Shane, I'll offer you CeeDee Lamb in a first and you give me Darren Waller, and you laugh. You're like, I'm just not trading him. There's nothing you can send me other than, Justin Herbert or better, then I'm just not going to trade him. So it's the acquisition cost. You can't even get somebody to budge. It's like a really rare baseball card or a really rare piece of art. Like people just aren't going to trade it. It doesn't even matter what you're going to offer them. So if it's in one of those leagues, I can't argue taking Kyle Pitts super high. But even though, let's just say it's a start 1.5. I think where Chase is valued, he's already seen as a dynasty top 8 to 12 receiver already, right? Like that's where he's already valued. Kyle Pitts is already a top 4 tight end. So you're already making money just by hitting draft, right? Like literally as soon as you draft him, you've made a profit on what you're drafting him, because you're not going to get, if you think Kyle Pitts is the same value as Darren Waller in leagues is going around like the 103. So you get Kyle Pitts at the 106, it's profit. So I can't argue positional advantage wise. You really can't take Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase too high. Can you agree with that?
Yeah, somehow Jamar Chase, and I'm just looking at the ADP from, I guess this is what, March, April's isn't in there yet. Allegedly, he was the wide receiver 15 off the board. That's without that. I mean, his pro day was what? Towards the end of the month, right? So he pulled out the end of his, towards the end of the month, probably spiked his value a little bit. As soon as he gets drafted, he's going to spike a little more. He's already going to be a top 12 wide receiver. Yeah, I can't argue against drafting either of those guys.
Well, and to be fair, looking at the ADP, I've run some polls on if Jamar Chase goes to the Bengals, who do you prefer, Jamar Chase or T. Higgins? And it's like 80-20 Jamar Chase. You cannot trade Chris. You can't trade Chris Godwin for Jamar Chase. You get laughed at. I don't think you can trade Terry McLaurin for Jamar Chase. No. So you see some of these names, and it's like, especially now Jamar Chase, the player, is one thing, but we haven't had the rookie draft yet. So to get Jamar Chase, you probably have to trade for the 104, 105, 106, and
if not higher.
Good luck trading Calvin Ridley or DJ Moore for the 103 in a super flex. You're not gonna get it because it's not that they're not worth it. But the other owner is going to go, well, I might need a quarterback. I might need a running back. Why would I commit to a receiver? What if you leave me Justin Fields? What if you leave me Kyle Pitts? What if you leave me Najee Harris? Why would I trade the 104 and all I get is a receiver? And I think that reflects what we've talked about. Like, it's just not that exciting to get a receiver these days, especially unless it's Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. Like, if it's Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, like that's kind of yesterday's news. You know what I mean? The point is nobody is trading a 103, 104, 105 in a super flex league for those types of receivers, yet the ADP says they are worth more than Jamar Chase.
So here's the phone one. So I just decided I'll go check out the trade finder on DLF. Just put Chase in there because, Devy leagues, he's obviously already owned in some leagues, or maybe they even had the rookie drafts. Maybe he was in a startup. I don't care, whatever. It doesn't really matter how he got there. But the very first trade on here, you're giving up Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant in the 102 for Jamar Chase in the 204. And it's 1-2 quarterbacks. So, yeah, he's expensive. 102 obviously could be Justin Fields. And it's super flex 2 quarterback league, and Noah Fant, who's pretty valuable at the tight end position. Before Kyle Pitts was Kyle Pitts, Noah Fant was kind of the hot name a couple years ago, him and Hawk. Yeah, you have to pay up to get Jamar Chase. There's one cheap trade, I guess. I'll call it cheap. Someone only had to give up the 106, the 409, and the 509 in the super flex league. Good for them. Jamar Chase for Deshaun Watson straight up on March 12th. I feel bad for the guy that got Deshaun Watson on March 12th. If you listen to this, just know that it gets better. We've all been there. And I just traded, just as an aside, Deshaun Watson for Jerry Jeudy, Ben Roethlisberger, and a couple thirds, and Raheem Mostert, and that's about the best offer I could get. But anyway, back to Chase. Yeah, honestly, if you want Chase from me, or the opportunity to draft Chase, you have to give me CeeDee Lamb. Like that's my starting point. Like Terry McLaurin, no, there's not a chance in the world I'm going to give. Terry McLaurin's not going to get it done. You want to give me Terry McLaurin in a first? Okay, we'll talk. Probably.
Well, I think you just hit on where the market gap is, because a lot of people right now, if they have Terry McLaurin and you offer them the 106, they're probably thinking about it. It's not a smash accept for the person that has Terry McLaurin or has DJ Moore. They're going, well, because I think the issue is, if you want Jamar Chase, unless it's a Devy league, and keep in mind those Devy trades, those could have been Devy depleted too. So the 102 there might only be Mac Jones and Zach Wilson sitting there, right? So it could be a depleted deal where the 102 really isn't a true 102. But I think what you said is you have to actually trade for a pick that gives you the choice to take Jamar Chase. That's what you're paying for. Until the draft happens, you're paying for the choice. And right now, I think the choice, because there's a Kyle Pitts, because there could be 4 quarterbacks that go in the top 4 of the NFL draft. Plus, there could be a running back that goes in the first round to a great spot. Sitting at like the 104, I feel great at the 104 because it's like the worst case scenario. Oh, well, I get a first round Najee Harris. Oh, well, I get Jamar Chase. Oh, well, I get Kyle Pitts. I am going to have options. You know what I mean? I'm going to get an elite talent or a really, really good situational player at the 104. So that's what you have to trade for. So I think it's really weird where it's like, I can't trade Chris Godwin for the 105, but the person that has Chris Godwin isn't necessarily going to trade him for the 106, the 107, the 108. So there's just this gap to where the picks are a lot more valuable until you actually have to put a player in there. So maybe in a league where there's a Devy league and you actually can trade for Jamar Chase and not for a draft pick, maybe you'll be able to get a deal done. But I think the point is he offers a positional advantage. And even if let's just say, oh my gosh, Jamar Chase might not be the most dominant receiver in the league, right? Maybe if he just becomes Chris Godwin, okay, maybe that's just what he becomes. But right now he is already valued like close to or at alpha level range. And we know what those guys are worth once you have them. So I think the path to Jamar Chase being a receiver that you can flip a year from now for 2.5 firsts is not that much, right? Let's say he goes to Miami and he has an 1,000-yard season. He is DK Metcalf next year. That's what he's going to be worth. So
Justin Jefferson.
Exactly. So to me, that is worth locking a guy in that is literally just a decent rookie season away from the community being like, oh my gosh, I'll pay 2.5 times what he costs right now to get him. Like people are doing for AJ Brown, like people are doing for Justin Jefferson. After that, if you're playing in this like mid-tier wide receiver 2s, a lot of people just don't pay up for those guys. And they're making the right move by not doing it. It's the same reason as, if I offer you right now Amari Cooper for the 109, what side?
Man, Cooper's such a weird guy. I'm not taking the 109.
Okay. So I think that's a good example though, because I think other people might look at that and say, well, I like Amari Cooper. On paper, he's worth the 109. But what if you're a team that also has the 105 or the 104 and you have no quarterbacks at all? You're probably taking the 109 because that might at least get you Mac Jones, right? So it just depends. Can you get a quarterback cheaper for Amari Cooper? Maybe. But your only path to fixing running back or quarterback might be to trade a guy like Amari Cooper. So it's just the scarcity argument. You have to weigh that versus, what the actual player is worth. But
yeah, we did a mock draft on a Dynasty Trades HQ, and somehow Trey Lance fell to 110. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen in any Superflex draft you're in. if it does, if he's falling beyond 1.6, 1.7, you need to just trade in there immediately and get him. I can't even imagine Mac Jones lasting to 108. Like I have a feeling that like these 5 quarterbacks are going to be off the board in the first 7 picks, which is great for me because unless of course I'm in that draft, because then I'll be the guy that's drafting Kyle Pitts at 102 and everyone will make fun of me. But yeah, they are expensive this year.
Well, I think one thing we have to be pointing out is that we don't know exactly how things are going to play out. But one prediction that I'm going to make is this. I think we're going to see, and Trey Lance is probably the best candidate, but it could be Justin Fields, it could be Mac Jones. It's going to be very interesting, and I'll ask your opinion on this. Let's say Trey Lance goes, let's say the draft, how I think it should go is Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields at 3. Then you have Atlanta on the clock at 4. Let's say they don't trade. Let's say they draft Trey Lance. Then they come out and say Trey Lance is on a 1 to 2 year plan to develop before he will start. That is our plan. Now, we know from history that a lot of teams say that, well, he's going to have to show that he's worth starting and we're going to, probably sit him. But the last 8 examples of that, the player has gotten on the field a lot earlier than we thought. And sometime during the rookie season, we go, you know what? I probably should have thought that guy might play a little early because they just used a freaking top 10 pick on him. And he's not going to sit until 2023. So, but I think what's going to happen is if Trey Lance, I think he's the best candidate. If he goes to the Falcons, there are going to be drafts where people go, okay, I'm okay at quarterback. And they're going to tell themselves the narrative that maybe they didn't really like Trey Lance that much. So he was quote unquote landing spot dependent. And you see some Devontae Smith at 108 over Trey Lance. You see some Rashad Bateman at 109 over Trey Lance. You see some people trading up for whatever running back jumps into the top 50. Trey Sermon, Kenneth Gainwell. I can see Trey Lance falling because people tell themselves, well, he's not going to start right away. And I think I can quote unquote win now. It won't be my drafts. It won't be your drafts. But those teams, the teams that are weak at quarterback, that are sitting at the 110, 111, 112, they're sitting there going, man, please, Trey Lance go somewhere shaky so that I can back up my Ben Roethlisberger and Drew Lock that are going to be dead after 2021. It'd feel real nice to add Trey Lance to that team and really let him sit just like an NFL team would. But it will cause the community to, I think, make him slip a little bit. And what you're saying is no, draft the talent. Yeah. Wait for the situation, right?
Look, how many times do we have to get punched in the face before we realize it's not fun getting punched in the face? AJ Brown. Oh, that landing spot is awful. I really hate that. DK Metcalf, even no one really talked up that landing spot as much because of Tyler Lockett. Kate, a lot of people talk about this, but you're drafted talent. You don't know what the situation is going to be in a year. Justin Herbert wasn't going to start last year. Tyrod Taylor gets stabbed in the lung. Things happen every year. We too often think situations are going to remain static when we should know better. We should. If we just go back and look at who the head coaches were 6 years ago and go, oh, wait, there's 2 head coaches from 6 years ago? That's not that long ago. And the starting quarterbacks, even looking at that 5 years ago, half of them or more already switched. Just basing it on situation is such a bad idea. It's such a terrible idea. It's why we didn't like Juju Smith-Schuster when he first got drafted by Pittsburgh. But now, you know what I mean? And then we went through the ups and downs with him. And then we liked it because Antonio Brown was gone. Now we don't like it because Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson are still there. The best players are going to be the best players. Do you want them to hit in year 1? That would be great. We'd all love that, right? Even last year with the running backs, we knew every one of them was drafted into a situation where they had a guy in front of them. But you could have panic bought just about every running back last year from that class during the first part of the year. Cam Akers, Jonathan Taylor, because people just immediately, he didn't pop in his first 4 games. He's probably not going to be very good. So, yeah, fade the situation. You don't know what the situation is going to be next year. you sure enough don't know what it's going to be in 3 years. I hate when people tell me, well, in 3 years, you have no idea what's going to happen in 3 years.
Well, and also I think sometimes you hear narratives about situations and they are not necessarily supported by anything other than just narrative. One thing I'm going to be looking at is, if you're part of my Patreon, you've probably seen this, but it's not just me. Michael Vu does some work on this too, and he's really good. Shout out to him, Mike me up on Twitter. But there are going to be some narratives about certain landing spots that are going to be bad. You mentioned A.J. Brown. That's going to be one of those landing spots where if the Tennessee Titans take a receiver like in the second round, I'm buying. I'm in. Now, that player is probably not going to get 150 targets, probably not going to get 110. But where the narrative is going to say the price should be, if it's a player that I like, that's probably going to be a player I'm actually more interested in than less, because I know people are going to fade that situation, right? Like, people are going to fade Tennessee and go, oh, well, he's the wide receiver 2. It's low volume, blah, blah, blah. I think that's going to be a player where, especially if it's a prospect you like, could be a sneaky landing spot. Now, on the opposite end, you'd agree, and it's not that these quarterbacks aren't efficient, but you would agree that any receiver that lands in Green Bay or Kansas City is going to be, their value is going to go up 50%, right? Just whoever it is, right? If it's insert any receiver you like in the first 3 rounds of the draft, if they go to one of those 2 spots, it's going to be basically arrows way up for that receiver. Wouldn't you agree with that?
It's going to be CEH Redux. He was everybody's running back 5, got drafted by Kansas City, and boom, running back 1.
But it's a receiver, so it's like, and it's a receiver where both situations, most people would say they have a spot open for their wide receiver 2. Like, there's some guys there, they're okay. And there's a couple players actually on those teams where I'm fine buying them if they don't draft a receiver. Everyone kind of craps on some of the guys they have, but I've been picking up some shares right now of like Marquez Valdez-Scantling. No one wants him. They just assume he's just going to get destroyed. And it's like, well, some leagues I don't want him, but some of our leagues, 14 team, 13 starters, you could do a lot worse than an Aaron Rodgers deep threat that if you have to throw that guy in, you could do a lot worse. But I think the narrative with both those situations is they need a second receiver. You know what I mean? So whoever it goes there, I'm almost going to fade that. I'm going to look for places where I think there's going to be the opposite narrative. Baltimore is another one. I don't know your thoughts on Baltimore, but I'm actually going to be in on a Baltimore receiver because I think there's room for somebody to come in there and literally bully everybody else out of the way and take 120, 125 targets. Now, that's not 150, but if there are 125 efficient targets on a offense that's going to score 50 touchdowns, I'm okay with that. Like, that's going to be somebody that if it's, I don't know, give me a tier 2 receiver that you really like in this class.
I guess Rondell Moore is a tier 2 receiver in this class, or is he a tier 1?
No, I think there's a tier 1 is Jamar Chase, and then after that we'll go over rookie tiers here in a second. But let's say Rondell Moore. Now, I think he kind of overlaps with Hollywood Brown a little bit, I would say, in just terms of what they bring. But let's say it's Seth Williams, right? A 3rd round Seth Williams to Baltimore. How will the community react to that?
The community is already.
He'll be buried. He'll be buried though, won't he? Yeah, if he goes to Baltimore in the 3rd round.
Yeah. No, not by me because I love Seth Williams, but the community will bury him. I mean, honestly, any wide receiver that lands in Baltimore, you're right, is going to fall a little bit. Jamar Chase could go to Baltimore, and we would hear the narrative about how that was a terrible landing spot for him. Mm-hmm. Again, because that'll be the narrative. Just going back to it, it's just people should focus on what they can prove. Can you prove a player is good? It's easier to prove a player is good as opposed to what a situation is going to be in 2 years because it's just too much. Like, we've been like Zach Ertz was getting cut from the Eagles for the last 6 years. He's still on that team, by the way. They still haven't traded him. Amari Cooper. Well, the Cowboys are going to have to move on from him because they got CeeDee Lamb. Well, he's there still. Like, it just don't do it. There's too much stuff involved to even pretend to attempt to know what's going to happen in 2 years' time. Anyway, sorry. But Seth Williams, Baltimore, he's gone. But Seth Williams to New Orleans? Oh, well, now all of a sudden, I guarantee he's going to be the back end of the first round.
Yeah, did you know we got a nice little early birthday present? And actually, we're recording this right now, Shane. It is actually, I know I shouldn't say the times on these because they come out at all different times. It is 11:59 p.m. on April the 10th. Guess what today is?
Not tax day, right?
It is Seth Williams' 21st birthday today.
Oh, he did turn 21?
21 today. So he's a 21-year-old. So not 22 like everybody thought. Not 23 like an unnamed publication had him out there.
I saw some Peter Howard consternation on Twitter about his age, and I got a little my heart dropped a little bit because I assumed it meant like, oh, he's a year older, but we found out he's a year younger, which you never find out. I mean, you know what I mean? That's like going to the NFL Combine and being like, wait, this guy's actually 2 inches taller than what we thought. And like, he actually runs a 4.3 instead of a 4.4. Oh my goodness. So I'm very excited. By the time the draft comes around and he gets drafted in New Orleans, people will be overdrafting him in the middle of the first round, and I'll be pissed off because I won't be able to get him in the back end of the second. Yeah.
I mean, I actually, I was conflicted because I had heard something about a week ago that his age could be wrong. And actually Wikipedia updated it on Monday to say he was born in 2000. And I'm going, man, like, because I put together kind of my own wide receiver model that heavily factors in age. And, you know, I'm like, if Seth Williams is literally still 20, he's the fourth youngest receiver in the class, if that's the case. And I love that. So, I mean, I'll be the first to say I was out on, some unnamed websites trying to find people. And, you know, I'm looking up his parents and his sister and all that stuff, trying to figure out if I can confirm his birthday. And, confirmed, 21 years old. Dane Brugler's draft guide came out and actually cemented it as I guess, as much as a fact as we're going to get until the team that drafts him actually lists his age.
We might have to ask to see his birth certificate.
The reason I say Dane Brugler is because I'm pretty sure he has actually a staff of people that are getting paid to look this stuff up, and they're getting it directly from, sources that actually have seen his paperwork. You know what I mean? So it's I would hope that what's in there is pretty much verified at this point. But yeah, it's this crazy thing where his age was actually a year younger. And now the last 3 days have just been filled with debates on Twitter. This doesn't mean Seth Williams is not the same football player, but you're not looking at it right if you don't think his profile is a little bit different. I mean, it just is. It's a fact. His profile is different. It's better because his entire resume is a year younger than we thought. So, yeah. Anyway, this is not a Seth Williams Manic and Chill, but I could go a little manic on that topic.
Here's the thing. So, first of all, he's already an early declare. For what it's worth, since we're already here, we might as well talk about it. We got to go look at his breakout age now, and I don't feel like looking it up, but everything's pushed back a year.
I got it. 19.4 breakout age. Seventh in the class.
Still a little old. Oh, Jesus, 19.4. You want that nice, meaty 18.2, but I'll take that 19.4. That's much better than 20, right? And he ran much faster than everyone thought he was gonna. Ran a 4.5. And he's just as big as we thought he is. What is he, 6'2", 216? For people that like that word, he's built like an alpha. If you liked Bryan Edwards last year, you probably like Seth Williams. So I like Seth Williams a lot. You like Seth Williams a lot. We're going to draft Seth Williams. If we get a chance to now in the second round, hopefully people don't bump him up to the first round on us. So Scott has had enough of you guys for the night, and I don't want to say I agree, but we are going to cut this one short tonight. Oh, Scott's back. So I was just actually going to say goodnight unless you had anything else to add tonight. We've already been going for about 40 minutes. Addison can clean it up a little bit, maybe get it down to 35, or maybe he could add fun stuff to it like he did to the last episode, and it could go longer.
No, I didn't really have anything else to add. I actually was kind of excited to talk a little bit. You were mentioning, I didn't hear what you just said. Did you say anything that kind of lended into that conversation? Because I think that is an important thing to talk about with when you're looking at this tier this second tier of receivers. So I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but it is a topic I was going to plan to bring up.
Go, shoot.
Well, I think, I'll kind of just go through, I think this will be helpful. And maybe we'll do another episode on this before the draft, just to kind of go through our own like draft tiers and stuff like that on kind of how we're going to approach. Because I think one thing we can bring to the listeners is between the two of us, we're going to be in probably close to 100 drafts. So like there's going to be different things that happen in all of them. And so I think we both have to have a pretty clear strategy on like where our tiers are before the draft actually gets here. Because it's too late if you wait until, if you're not looking at where you're picking and what you think everything's going to go down like until it actually is all in front of you and you have to start the draft 2 days later, like you don't want to have to start planning for your tiers that late. You know what I mean? But I'll just do a teaser. Maybe we'll do another episode next week on this. But I think there's some merit in, let me ask you if you agree with this statement. The second round of rookie drafts this year in Superflex leagues are going to be super wide receiver heavy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just thinking of a couple of the guys right off the bat, right? You got Jalen Waddle, and in no particular order. Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Seth Williams. I don't know where Rashad Bateman's going to fall. I don't know where Rondale Moore's going to fall in some drafts. Elijah Moore. Yeah, it's going to be heavy wide receiver. And that's just off the top of my head. There's probably like 15 other guys like I'm just blanking on right at the moment.
No, you're good. I assume that we have the 5 quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round. We're going to definitely have 2 running backs, but possibly this is the wild card is I think Javonte Williams is going to go in the first round of most drafts, but there may be, we've seen it with Keyshawn Vaughn. We've seen it with Darrell Henderson. Any running back that goes to a decent spot in the second round, especially, but even in the early third round, there's going to be people that say, oh man, Trey Sermon to the Steelers in the late second. Like, I'm taking him over a receiver just because I need a running back, and I think he has a path to maybe being a starter. So, 5 quarterbacks, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, 3 running backs, we're already to 10 right there, right? And then maybe a running back is a wild card and jumps in there. So, I look at Rondale Moore, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, Terrace Marshall, Devontae Smith, Tylan Wallace, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Diami Brown, Kadarius Toney, Jalen Waddle, and Seth Williams. That's 11 receivers that I think you could argue would populate a lot of drafts from the 110 to the 301. That's a lot of receivers. And I expect all those receivers to go in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. Now, some may fall a little lower than others. Some may jump up. I've seen some mock drafts that have Anthony Schwartz jumping into the 3rd round, Dwayne Eskridge jumping into the 3rd round, Tutu Atwell at 155 pounds. I've seen him mocked in the 2nd, which is crazy to me.
What? No.
But yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't buy it. But right now, if you go to mock draft database, they have Tutu Atwell at pick number, and I have to look it up, but he's the 13th receiver off the board. He's actually going off the board in their mock ahead of Seth Williams, and right before, ahead of Seth Williams in their mock draft. But the point is, and we'll do another episode on this later, there's going to be a lot of receivers to pick from. Grinding the Mocks has 17 receivers on day 2. So that's a lot. So when you're on the clock by default in the 2nd round, if you're at the random 207, it's probably going to be best player available. Really good chance it's a receiver. So how do you pick those receivers? What are you targeting? And we'll do another show on that next time.
I like that. That's an excellent, and that gives me something to think about now for the next episode. And I'm going to do a show sheet and all. Yeah. And
I have kind of a method that I'm going to walk through, and maybe I'm wrong. And I think you don't have to agree with me on the players, and the listeners don't have to agree with me on the players. But I think it's important for us to kind of go through this exercise to say, okay, if I'm on the clock and I can't trade back, right? Because if I'm in a league with Shane and you have the 205 and I have the 203 and there's a tier of 5 receivers, you're not trading up unless it's like I need to get this guy in this league and I have some motivation to take him over somebody else in the same tier. I think it's going to be really hard. You're going to find yourself stuck in a lot of drafts. So you have to know what you want to prioritize and how you want to prioritize it based on, whatever your objective is. Is it how many shares you have of a player? Do you like the landing spot because he's stacked with one of your quarterbacks? That could be a reason that you put a tiebreaker together and say you take A over B. But I'd like to do a show on that. I think that's a kind of a cool topic to work through.
Well, guess what? That's what our next episode's going to be on, because I'm working on the show sheet as we speak.
Shane's already doing the show sheet for the next show. All right. You want to close this out?
Thanks for listening, watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, hurry up and subscribe to DLF YouTube. It's on one of these things here. I don't watch the videos, so I don't know where it is. The DLF rookie guide just came out today too. Don't forget that the DLF draft guide, Dynasty draft guide's out. If you haven't already downloaded that, well, then you're just silly. Or you haven't subscribed to DLF as a site. So you should. So you can find me, Shane. Shane is the worst. Dynasty Trades HQ. I also do a live stream on Tuesdays, Turn Up Tuesdays. We haven't really given it a name. Whatever. You find me on Twitter. Scott, where can they find you?
You can find me at Charles Chill FFB, at Dynasty Chill Pod, Dynasty and Chill on all podcast platforms. And go check out, if you don't have time to read the entire rookie guide or the entire draft guide, I mean, obviously I recommend that, but most of our rookie profiles are up on DLF too. So if you're curious just on a specific player, and what I like about those is you get some flavor from all of our writers. You know, you probably get 25 different writers that covered those rookies. So you're getting like different types of analysis and different types of information from different people, because we all see things differently. So if you're interested in a player, literally go to like the ADP and just click on the players button, and you'll see the articles with the rookie profile. And there's, you know, the cool thing is they're all set up the same way. So you're going to get basically the same information on each rookie. You know, their pre-pro day, after pro day, what their college numbers look like, their production metrics. But then you kind of get some analysis on where people see them going in drafts. So that's kind of what mine look like. But, you know, you may pull somebody up and say, you know what, I totally disagree with this person's analysis. And it's just kind of an idea of getting, you know, these are the people you may be drafting with. So check out those rookie profiles. There's a lot of great writers at DLF. Yeah, that's all I'll plug. So appreciate you, Shane.
I appreciate you, my friend.
All right. Later, DLF.
Goodbye, DLF world.